what is needed to exploit business potential of good ideas in a sense of ending up with a scalable, profitable, and relevant innovation?
One word, the most important thing is time. So when you think of startups, you often hear the whole folklore of agility and 2-week sprints, and you confuse it maybe that product innovations come overnight. And this is not the case. So it takes years to iterate a great product. It takes a year to find the right go-to-market strategy. And maybe it needs a decade when you look to Amazon, to Google, and others to find the right business model. So I personally don't know any startup that did it faster than 7 years. So some took even longer. So, and when at the same time as you look to the enterprise world, then you see what happens in a decade, for example, in the automotive industry. There's electrification, there's Corona, there's a lot of change in management and reorgs and so on. And I think that is the thing that you have to think about it, that you have the case that startups is a long play. That's not an overnight hit business. And I think that's the kind of problems that there are where when traditional companies work together with startups, because the expectation is startups are fast, agile, and so on. But a startup business it's a business of a decade, and you have to find the right persons on the enterprise side that invest into these kind of visions that needs a decade to come to the light and to prove that the idea is the right idea for the market.
You addressed the traditional approach of corporates. So maybe one very traditional aspect that corporate brings in if it comes to startup innovation is the money question. So my question to you would be, as you have worked with so many different corporates and you're an expert in the mobility ecosystem, which are the fields in the mobility ecosystem that look promising regarding return on investments? Because we see like really hopeful startups that don't earn any profits yet. So maybe you have a recommendation for us.
Yes, look not to the money. That's my recommendation, because I think it's a big mistake, especially in Europe. In European startups, and mainly driven by local investors too, and conservative investors or corporate investors, that they look too much to the numbers. So a startup, the ambition and the purpose of a startup is all about conquering or creating a relevant new market. And if you conquer a market or you create a new market, then at the end of the day, there's money in this. But when you look too early into make money, then you destroy the value and the opportunities in your idea. So I think it's not about the money thing. It's more about the vision to conquer or create a market.
It's not so much about the money thing, it's about the vision. I am pretty sure that you had this discussion before when you were talking with corporates. Do they actually accept this advice?
Yes, sometimes no. But I think, to be honest, that's the only thing. So but the hard thing is it's not the money thing. The hard thing is to expect that it's project that needs a decade, because when you have a decision maker in a corporate world who is in the driver's seat for 10 years. So you look in the startup world or the digital pure player world, to the Googles and to the Facebooks and the Amazons and the Bookers and so on and so on and so on. And then you see that their management, their founder teams, they stay 1 decade, maybe 2 decades, or with Steve Jobs and Apple, for example, 3 decades with their vision. And then you look into the enterprise world and the decision makers that start a conversation with a startup and maybe they invest, maybe they are 3 years in their position, 4 years, 5 years, but definitively not a decade or 2 decades. And I think that's the harder problem, and the relationship between startups and traditional businesses, that the horizons to invest is completely different.
Thank you for that. You were mentioning, or you were talking about the Amazons, the Facebooks. Just before with Thomas and Fabian, we were talking about different setups for startups to grow, different startup scenes, different ecosystems. So I would be curious, what are the strengths and deficits that you see in the European startup scene to catch up with international competition?
So, as they mentioned, we have the talent and we have the cultural diversity in Europe. So I think that's a huge advantage. But on the other side, too often we do not think globally enough. So we are afraid of scale and usually do not dare to think radically enough. So my tip, when you think about the next finance round, think 10 times bigger. But because all of us heard that there were big bets that failed. That's clear. Not every bet worked out. But on the other side, there are orders of magnitude of smaller, mid-sized deals that disappear also. So I think the probability to be successful with a big finance round, it's much higher than when you go with the low numbers. So invest and go for the big money. That's my tip.
Go for the big money. Matthias, you mentioned a key word that all of the speakers before actually mentioned as well. So it's the key role. Everyone relates to the talent. And you said, and I liked it very much, like you said, we have the talent. So that's, I would say, a great base. Question here, and I know you have children yourself. So I'm curious if it's about writing the next chapter, thinking about the future. What are the key assets for future generations to play an active role in shaping our economy? Do they have to become all coders or get into the AI universities of this world? Or what do you actually recommend the future generation to elaborate on?
I think do what you want. And I think we have all the good things. We have the education. So, and my wish for the next generation, and I see this happened, that they go with optimism into the world. And then my second wish is that they come back to our wonderful country and to build their future, and with this, our future in this country. Because when we look to the US or to Asia, that's fascinating countries and continents and cultures and so on. But I think we have to build our future here and go out, but come back. That's my wish.
What are the core competencies which you need within your company, and which parts would you plan to outsource?
So yes, it depends with the question number one. So I would say that first of all, that varies in each market segment, of course. But my impression is that in the times of transformation, of speed, and so on, we have, and the companies have to build more and more internally. And with this, the standard process, especially in the automotive industry, of writing thick specifications and standardized procurement processes and so on, are no longer leads to success. So it's if you want to innovate, you need more deepened partnerships or to insource the competences that are needed to do the differentiation thing.
Okay, so maybe last question. What are the success factors for an OEM to master the digital product market? Is it focusing on the core competencies, internal staffing, knowledge sharing? What do you think?
I think the core product for automotive is changing. It's more digital. It's more a smartphone on wheels. I think that's the new picture we have. And with this, technology it's everywhere today. It's not embedded or siloed in an IT department. So technology is like air in every department and penetrate everything. And to handle this, that technology is it's everywhere. I think that's the core need, the core challenge for every OEM.